What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Xbox Showcase. Talk just like I did for Summer Game Fest and State of Play about my expectations and about my predictions. Now, I'm not so great, with predictions, but I'm going to try in this video. And again, let's start with the expectations, just because I feel like I generally am pretty okay, with those ones. Now, okay, look, for quite a while, I've been saying I really am, expecting Xbox to go big. I think maybe we've been pampered, the last couple years. Now, with that being said, we have Aaron Greenberg over on Twitter saying, looking forward to the show, just don't overhype it too much. We sort of burned the house down last year. So look, I really think I'm going to take that into consideration when I talk about, what I think or what I kind of want to see at their show, because you think about last year, and I do think the setup is not really going to change. And I think that's important. I think that's something that no matter the severity or how high or how great a game is or whatever, I think generally the structure of the show and how they do it is going to roughly stay the same. So you look back at last year and you get around 25-ish announcements, okay? It can range, a little depending on which year you're looking at. So let's say 20, 25, 30, somewhere in that range. Now, most of them have Game Pass association, okay? Most of them. Normally, you'll get 2 to 4 games. Like last year, we had Assassin's Creed Shadows. We got Dragon Age The Veilguard with that not so great, first reveal trailer. And so you have a couple games that are not tied, right? Some third-party stuff that whatever, they do it with Xbox, and they're not tied to Game Pass in any way. So to me, that's really the structure, is first-party games that have Game Pass association, which is the mixtapes of the world, right, that we've gotten in the past. Now, for a thing like tomorrow, I think Plague Tale, right, made a video earlier today. The Plague Tale game was leaked. In fact, they leaked it, I think the publisher, so it wasn't even Xbox or anything. I feel that is going to appear at the Xbox show. Requiem was on Game Pass. I think both the last Plague Tale games, both of the last two, they were announced at the Xbox show just in general. So, there's a good example, right? It's a game that is not tied to them directly. They're not making it, let's say, right? And it's probably going to be on Game Pass. And even if it's not, it seems like it's going to be there, okay? But those are kind of the categories. Now, I guess what I really want to start with is the first-party stuff, right? Because this is really where they brought it. Let's be real. Last year, they showed games that have been dormant for so long, State of Decay 3 and Perfect Dark, I think, are two really good examples, right? Both those games, I think, were announced roughly around 2020. State of Decay specifically showed a trailer back in 2020, and then they were absent until last year, both of them. So that was cool. And, you got both of those. You got Fable that was brought back. Of course, last year was the big COD thing, right? But you ended it with Gears of War E-Day. I mean, they went hard, and they went very specifically, first party. That was a huge, if you look at just all the games they announced last year, a good chunk, probably more than you should expect this year, right? That's kind of the thing. A good chunk was first party stuff. So when it comes to this year, I'm thinking you're going to swap some stuff out, okay? I think obviously Outer Worlds 2 is important, and you're going to have that as its own show, right? So maybe they touch on it, in the base show, but that's obviously going to have its own thing. We've heard talk that Fable's not going to be there. I don't think that's a good idea. I feel like Fable should just continue. It's been there 3 years in a row, okay, the last 3 years. So, I mean, if that's not going to happen, then maybe that's one of those swap-out games. You know what I mean? I think State of Decay 3 needs to, right? This is a chance for State of Decay to start to build. You don't want a game to appear at a show too many times in a row, because that means, the game is still not out. But State of Decay, it's in an interesting spot. I think the developers are starting to post, cryptic messages on Twitter and stuff, so it feels like they're going to be there, okay? I think State of Decay 3 is a good example of a game that re-emerged last year and is going to be there this year, and we can make it 2 in a row. I can see a thing like Fable and Perfect Dark being swapped with something else. I think Clockwork Revolution actually makes sense. And maybe, that could fit the whole, hey, don't get too excited, right? Because if you swap, it depends on what you want to see, right? For me, Clockwork Revolution looked really cool. Definitely BioShock Infinite-esque, maybe a little too much, but, I'm excited for that game. Swapping, say, Fable for it, I don't know, for me, which one, wins out in my head. Maybe one wins out more for you than another person, right? So, but I think generally, maybe Fable is bigger than Clockwork. So by swapping them out, you say, okay, you're maybe lowering the show. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's, if I set my expectations like that, that'll be fine. But that's kind of how I see it. In terms of the really big one, like I said, I mean, State of Decay I think needs to happen. I would want want Fable because Fable's coming out like within the next year. By next June, we should already have played it. And unless it gets delayed again, that's the case. So again, I don't love the idea that Fable's not going to be there if that rumor is true, but I'm thinking, when I think about Gears of War, I think that also makes sense to appear because, again, that's also probably a 2026 game. So, I mean, if I had it my way, and also to be a little realistic, I would do like State of Decay. I mean, if you want to swap Fable out with Clockwork, whatever, Gears. Halo isn't in, like, I've seen so many people just suggest to me, not like insiders, just people in general say, hey, Halo. Is it time? It should be time. Even the re-reveal and talking about, where the company's at now and all that stuff, that was a little while ago, so like and there were rumors of what they were doing with Halo even before then, right? So I do think it's the right time to do like Halo 1 remake, or if this is your chance to kind of branch out the Master Chief collection and maybe do it on PlayStation as well. That's another whole separate thing, is like, how much do you bring up PlayStation? Probably not all that much, if at all. But I mean, you imagine a lot of these games are going to be day one, dare I say, on PlayStation, on maybe even Switch 2, right? But Halo's a big one. Gears of War Reloaded. I've seen some people do some pushback on that one. Again, if I had it my way, Gears of War E-Day, you would show. And I don't even think that's all that crazy, right? Because it's 2 years in a row. This is your chance to like go a little bit deeper into the game, do something a little bit different than last year was the reveal trailer, right? And if it really does come out in the next like 12 to 16 months, I think, that makes a lot of sense to do something like that. So you could do that, and then you could even double dip and do the Reloaded thing. Now that's, again, I've gotten some pushback when I've said that, in live streams of, I feel like you could show it. You could argue like, what is there to show? I mean, if you think about it, like, we don't have anything besides like the announcement. So there is no trailer. There's a couple screenshots, but I mean, like, that's it. So I feel like you're not going to release a game 2 months from now. It is a pretty big deal, especially coming to the other platforms. It is probably the best version, of that game. The multiplayer coming along with it is freaking awesome, right? So I just don't see how you release it, I guess, without a trailer. Is kind of what I'm getting at, right? I feel like it's okay to give it a little bit of a trailer. That's all. So, I would say that pocket of stuff, right? Halo, I'm kind of 50-50 on. Gears, I feel like Reloaded for sure. E-Day, maybe also 50-50. You also have the Bethesda angle to it, and there's actually quite a few things you could do here, right? Indiana Jones needs DLC, and we know it's coming. Doom technically needs DLC, and we know it's coming. Now, Indy, it's definitely been longer, right? So I guess give me one of those two, and then you got the two freaking big guns, right? I guess besides maybe Starfield, everybody would say Starfield on PlayStation. That's a hard one to announce because I don't think you want to waste time. And, considering Xbox perspective, it might be considered wasting time. It's their show. They got a lot to do. They're going to come out and say, hey, Starfield's coming on PS5, in the fall. That's an announcement. That's something that I think you can tweet, just like they did for Hellblade. Actually, Hellblade's a good example of that, right? But it's definitely not something I think you're going to use time at the show to do. But there are two others, and it's Fallout and it's Elder Scrolls. Now, I'm seeing a lot of talk online that Elder Scrolls might be the final game. I would love that. That would be freaking awesome. So I'll leave it at that. There's speculation there. I will not expect it. Okay, myself personally, I will not expect it. I will tell you this, though, because ultimately, I think it's probably more likely that happens and we get no Fallout versus what I'm about to say. Because in my world, I actually think Fallout, you need to double down on somewhere. We know Fallout 3 is going to get the Oblivion treatment, or it is. It literally is behind the scenes, but it's years away. Okay? The issue is you had all of season 1 come out of the show, was so freaking good, nothing, right? Crickets. Now you literally already filmed season 2, and it's coming out fast, and it's going to be so centralized on New Vegas, and you have this 3 game, that's not ready, and then New Vegas, what, you're doing nothing with it? So in my ideal world, I would love something Fallout. I don't care what it is. I guess, the show is great, so I don't think now is the time to show a trailer. I don't really think you need to waste time with that. Games, okay? Do anything Fallout related, and I'd be happy. Ultimately, again, maybe a reverse jinx. I would actually expect Elder Scrolls 6 before I expect something Fallout. And then you kind of pick from like the Clockworks and Fables and things like that. I don't think you'd see like Forza Horizon because of Fable. I feel like that wouldn't be really that smart of a thing to do. Maybe there's 2 teams there. Like, it's possible, but I just don't really see it all that likely. Again, you have the third-party games and the ones that are tied tied to Game Pass. So Plague Tale, I think, is a good example of that. That's always, to me, okay, honestly, and again, even in terms of expectations, I don't really have like specifics. Like, I'm not saying, okay, I really wish these like 3 games would come to Game Pass. This is just a chance that, and honestly, they did this years ago. I don't even know. Maybe they did this even back when like E3, when Game Pass was like starting to get going. This is always just a chance to like surprise me and be like, oh my God, that game is coming to Game Pass. You know what I mean? It could be a brand new game. I mean, last year they announced Expedition 33, right? And I mean, look at what happened in the last 12 months. So I like to just see those things. Give me a couple, right? Now, here's the thing. Plague Tale is one, and then Persona 4 Remake is also one, right? So there's 2 right there. Big names, big franchises. So, give me a couple more. And maybe I do mean couple, like 2, right? Just give me a couple more third-party games. They could be the size of like the mixtapes of the world, or they can be the size of like a Persona 4 of the world. Just give me a couple, whether they're fall games or whether maybe they're 2026 games. Hollow Knight? Really think, I mean, we've heard so much about Hollow Knight, and it's skipped all of these shows. So this is the last chance, okay? Hollow Knight, or I'd say Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake. I'm just feeling, I know Ubisoft has actually been very quiet, and they never said they're going to the Xbox show. They said they weren't on the list for Summer Game Fest, like all that stuff. So maybe it's unrealistic, but I don't know. I feel something Ubisoft is going to happen as well. And maybe it's because Shadows was last year, but also there's no Ubisoft event like Ubisoft Forward. That's not happening this time. And also Ubisoft generally, Mirage was shown at the State of Play years ago. Like they tend to use other parties, other partners or whatever, to do their own stuff. So that's those are 2 right there that I'm feeling pretty good on. You know what I mean? I feel like if you can give me if you can walk out, all right, let's be real. If you give me Hollow Knight and you give me a release date and it is on Game Pass, like that's the big thing to me. It's a Game Pass game. It's obviously going to be available everywhere else, but I feel like if you can just walk out with Hollow Knight, I don't really need any other third-party games besides that. You give me Persona 4 Remake, that's pretty darn good right there just to show it. Give me a handful of other ones there, and then pick, a handful of your first party. The thing is, I only listed maybe 10 or so games. Last year they showed like 26. So it's like, now again, maybe this one's going to be not as good as last year, whether that means the quality of the games or maybe that literally means quantity. Like a thing I think they did honestly really good last year was both. Like it's kind of rare you get a large amount and they're also high quality, right? Like sometimes you'll get a Summer Game Fest or a Gamescom where, you'll get 50 announcements, but then how many are good? I really feel they hit the perfect balance. And by the way, this is not console warrior stuff. I could care less about that garbage. I want games. I want great games. And that's what they did last year. High volume of games and just so many really good ones. Yes, not all, but most of them, I would argue. So, I wonder which one of those is taking a back seat, right? Is this where we get BioShock, by the way? We're still kind of waiting on the BioShock rumor that we heard a few weeks ago. Like, all right, Persona, you show Assassin's Creed or Hollow Knight, you show a BioShock thing, maybe it's Game Pass, maybe it's not, whatever. Give me a handful, you know what I mean? And again, I'm only going through a couple. If they can give us 20 games, I'm missing some just by the sheer numbers thing, right? So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm not expecting the world, not expecting like the 10 biggest games I can think of. Give me a handful of a couple different groups, So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.